The ocean was calm that morning when Jessica Redcliffe prepared to leave the marine sanctuary for the last time. For years, she had been a caretaker and companion to a group of orcas rescued from captivity and injury. Among them was Kai, a massive male orca who had bonded with her in ways few people could imagine. As she walked slowly toward the edge of the dock, she looked into Kai's eyes one last time, knowing this farewell would mark the end of a chapter neither of them was ready to close. Jessica had dedicated most of her adult life to these creatures, often sacrificing personal comfort to ensure their survival. She had stayed late into countless nights when storms rattled the sanctuary, whispering reassurance to frightened whales. She had braved cold waters to guide them toward safety, and she had fought tirelessly against bureaucratic obstacles that threatened their protection. Now, as her departure loomed, the weight of what she was leaving behind pressed heavily on her chest, almost unbearable. Kai seemed to sense what words could never explain. He circled slowly near the dock, rising halfway out of the water to release a low, mournful call that echoed across the bay. The sound was haunting, filled with something that felt like sorrow. Visitors who had gathered to witness Jessica's farewell were moved to tears, recognizing the bond between human and animal was not just scientific, but deeply emotional. The orca's cry seemed to say what Jessica already knew: this goodbye was breaking his heart. As Jessica knelt down, her hand brushed the surface of the water. Kai immediately approached, pressing his great head near her palm, his black and white markings glistening in the sunlight. For years, this simple gesture had been their language, a silent agreement of trust and respect. She whispered softly to him, promising she would never forget, promising that her fight for orcas everywhere would continue, even if she couldn't remain physically by his side. The tears streaming down her face mingled with the spray of the sea. The other orcas gathered too, their dorsal fins cutting gracefully through the water as though they understood the gravity of this moment. Some leapt gently into the air before landing with splashes, others swam in quiet circles. The sanctuary had always been alive with activity, but now the atmosphere was reverent, almost ceremonial. It was as though the pod itself was saying farewell to Jessica, honoring the years she had given them, the love she had shared, the safety she had ensured. Jessica's colleagues stood back, giving her the space she needed. Many of them were crying as well, aware of the extraordinary connection they were witnessing. Few humans ever experience something so profound, the trust of a wild creature who has every reason to fear. Jessica had spent years earning that trust, and now, as she left, it was clear that the bond went both ways. Kai lifted his head high, water dripping down his massive body, before releasing another echoing call across the bay. In her final moments on the dock, Jessica leaned forward until her forehead nearly touched Kai's. The giant orca lingered there, still and quiet, almost as if he too wanted time to stop. In the silence, the world seemed to fade, leaving only them, woman and whale, two souls bound by a shared story. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, willing herself to remember every sound, every sensation of this goodbye. Her whispered words carried into the wind: "I love you. Thank you." Kai's response was not words, but movement. He slowly submerged, disappearing beneath the surface, leaving ripples where he had been. For a moment, Jessica feared he might stay below, retreating into grief. But then he surged upward in a magnificent breach, water, spraying in all directions, as though declaring to the world his pain, his love, his sorrow. The crowd gasped, some covering their mouths, while Jessica's tears fell freely. This was not just a goodbye, it was an expression of a broken heart. As she turned to walk away from the dock, Jessica's legs felt heavy, almost unwilling to carry her. She wanted to turn back, to stay forever in this place that had defined her purpose. Yet she knew life was pulling her toward another path, one where she could advocate for whales and marine life on a broader scale. Every step away from the sanctuary felt like betrayal, but she reminded herself this was not the end, it was a continuation, a promise to protect them from afar. The sanctuary staff escorted her quietly, their silence an acknowledgement of the sacredness of what had just unfolded. Behind her, the sound of orcas breaking the water reached her ears one last time. She paused, listening, her eyes closed, imagining Kai's gaze following her. She resisted the urge to run back, knowing the pain of a second farewell would be unbearable. Instead, she pressed her hand to her chest, carrying the memory like a stone etched into her soul. News of Jessica's departure quickly spread beyond the sanctuary, carried by emotional witnesses and viral videos of Kai's cries. Across social media, people shared messages of admiration, grief, and awe. Orca's tears of regret became a phrase repeated endlessly, symbolic of the bond between species, symbolic of love that transcends words. The world saw in Jessica and Kai's goodbye a reflection of humanity's responsibility to care for the creatures with whom we share this planet. For days afterward, Kai lingered near the dock, releasing calls that staff described as unusual and mournful. He seemed to search for Jessica, his massive frame gliding back and forth across the bay as though waiting for her return. Some said it was proof that orcas feel emotions as deeply as humans do, others dismissed it as instinctual behavior. But those who had been there, those who had heard his cries, knew in their hearts that what they had witnessed was genuine grief. Jessica, far from the sanctuary now, carried the images with her everywhere she went. She replayed Kai's calls in her mind, hearing the sorrow even in her dreams. She wondered if he would forgive her absence, if he understood why she had to go. Her fight would now move to boardrooms, campaigns, and public speeches, but her heart remained tethered to the bay, to the creatures who had shaped her life. Every word she spoke in advocacy carried the weight of her promise to Kai. In time, the sanctuary continued to thrive, but the story of Jessica and Kai remained legendary among its staff and visitors. New caretakers came, new faces joined the mission, but the tale of the woman who walked away to the sound of an orca's tears was told again and again. It inspired volunteers, donors, and animal lovers across the globe to dedicate themselves more fiercely. Their story had become bigger than either of them, it had become a symbol of compassion itself. Though miles away, Jessica found solace in letters and messages from strangers who had seen the farewell. People told her that Kai's cry had changed the way they thought about animals, about oceans, about love. Some said it had made them cry harder than any film or book could. To Jessica, that meant her mission was working, even through heartbreak. It meant Kai's voice, amplified through her departure, was still echoing across the world, urging humanity to care. And so, the farewell of Jessica Redcliffe and Kai the orca lived on, not just as a sad goodbye, but as a story of devotion, love, and responsibility. It was a reminder that bonds can form between species, that respect and trust can bridge the divide of language. Though she walked away, Jessica's heart never left the sanctuary, and Kai's mournful cries ensured the world would not forget. Their goodbye became eternal, written in waves and carried by the sea forevermore.